I'm going to ask the clerk do we have a quorum? Madam Clerk?
Good evening. Good evening, Madam Chair. Yes, ma'am, we do have a quorum. I don't see Member Titus or Member Davis.
Okay. Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, July 22nd, and you're with Opa-locka CRA board meeting. Look forward to a productive day today. Like to say again, good evening to everyone. And Madam Clerk, if you would do roll call, please.
Yes, ma'am. Board Member Bass?
I'm here.
Board Member Burke?
I'm here.
Board Member Davis? Board Member Paget?
I'm here.
Board Member Titus? Okay. Vice Chair Kelly?
Present.
Chair Russell?
I'm here.
Okay, attendance confirmed.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please, we received a letter of excused absence from Board Member Titus. Can you please make reference to that letter?
Yes, ma'am. Board Member Titus will be excused from today's CRA meeting, July 22nd.
Okay. And as we get ready to go into our invocation, a moment of silence, and we're going to ask Vice Mayor Kelly, if you would do that, honor us in doing that. And let's remember Board Member Titus lost her sister on last week. I think it was last week, towards the end of the week. So we're praying for her and her family. And also we have a long-time member in our community, Miss Sarah, that lives on Chasm. I can't remember her last name right now, but she also passed away from COVID. Very, very influential family in our community on this side of town. So Board Member Kelly, if you would do the honors, please.
Let's pray. Eternal God, our Father, we come acknowledging you in all things. We come thanking you, God, for all of your many blessings. And God, as we come today, we come to lift up those families, oh God, who've lost loved ones. We pray for their strength. We pray for their comfort. We pray, oh God, for Board Member Titus and her family and all those impacted, oh God, by COVID-19 and other illnesses. We pray, oh God, for the city of Opa-locka. We pray for our nation. We pray for the CRA board, oh God. Give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Do those things which are pleasing in your sight. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance, if we would all repeat. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Madam Clerk, do we have any add-ons?
Madam Chair, at this time, we do not have any add-ons.
Okay, thank you. Madam Attorney, I think you have to read something into the records. Her screen looks like it's frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Attorney?
Read the script.
Yes, please.
Pursuant to Executive Order Number 20-69, issued by the Office of Governor Ron DeSantis on March 20th, 2020, municipalities may conduct meetings of their governing boards without having a quorum of its members present physically or at any specific location and utilizing communications media technologies such as telephonic or video conferencing as provided by Section 120.545B2 of the Florida statutes. The members of the Community Redevelopment Agency appearing remotely for this meeting are Chair Russell, Board Member Paget, Board Member Bass, Board Member Burke, and Vice Chair Kelly. An opportunity was given to the public to email the CRA clerk prior to the CRA meeting. The CRA clerk will For the records, state at the appropriate time whether there have been any questions, comments, concerns on items you will hear on this evening's meeting agenda. This meeting is being streamed live at www.youtube.com/user/City of Opa-locka.
Thank you, ma'am. We would like to move to the approval of the minutes.
Move it, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Move it.
Minutes have been moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
Minutes have been moved in second. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Okay, Board Member Bass,
Yes.
Board Member Byrd,
Yes.
Board Member Paget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Chair Russell,
Yes.
minutes approved.
Now we're gonna open up the meeting for public comments are now open. Public comments are now closed. We're gonna move into discussions and presentations, and I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Gay. I direct at this time. Gotta unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the CRA Board of Directors. Gregory Gay, your CRA manager. We would like to present to you a series of items that have been brought up over the last couple of months. These are items that we kind of were introductory as a part of the CRA workshops that we've had over the last couple of months. And in addition to that, there were some things or some bookkeeping issues that needed to be brought before you. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, and we will have a presentation by our budget director and finance director regarding the city and the CRA and the position regarding the reconciliation. As you as board members have known for quite some time, there have been some questions and concerns that have been raised regarding where the CRA's finances are in relationship to, in comparison with the city operations and the CRA operations. And the finance department took the lead and over the past 6 months have been working on reconciliations between those two entities. Michelle Henney and Jerry Lazar have been working very feverishly and also with participation from our budget director, Mr. Robert Anathan. We have been working to get that information and basically get a better understanding as it relates to the interactions and the finances in between those two particular entities. You may also recall that as a part of the Attorney General's audit findings and operations, one of the items that needed to be addressed was to have a memorandum of understanding between the city and the CRA. And that was like our first step as we move toward that reconciliation process. As we stand right now, there are some items that need to be brought to your attention so that you have a better understanding how the interactions and financial accounting between the CRA and the city have come to light. And this is basically being measured from FY 2013, which is around the beginning of the CRA, up until September 30th, 2019. I believe we have Jerry on the line who can give us a brief presentation as to how we came about this whole reconciliation process. I know Bob is going to probably chime in as well. And just to kind of give you a sense of where the monies are in relationship to the city and the CRA. So Jerry, if you're on board, we'd like for you to make a presentation at this time. Is Jerry with us?
I don't see Mrs. Lazier on the call.
Okay. With that being said, I know, Robert, you had some concerns as it relates to the reconciliation numbers. So if you could provide us some background, because I know you've had some interactions between finance as it relates to how the reconciliation process was.
Hi, good evening. It's Bob Anathan, Budget Administrator. I don't have any concerns at this point. As you pointed out, there was some lack of consistency or awareness as to where the CRA was in terms of the reserves that it had due to it. I think that was resolved by accounting, and as of September 30th, 2019, I think everybody agrees that the CRA has $745,000 and I'm sorry, $745,033 of reserves available to it for future projects. So that is, I mean, that's all that I'm sorry, I'm hearing some background. I'm not prepared to talk reconciliation process. I know it was done very extensively. They went back from 2013 and looked at all of the cash that was received by it, all the bills that were either paid by the CRA or paid by the general fund on behalf of the CRA, and balanced out those revenue receipts versus those expenditures. And in fact, as I said, as of September 30th, 2019, did end up with a balance of $745,033. So I think that puts to bed any concerns that were up to this point about the lack of awareness of where the CRA was. I really have nothing more to add than beyond that then.
Okay, thank you very much, Robert. I'll just kind of give you a brief presentation as it relates to where we are with the reconciliation information. If you would look on the sheet that's called the summary of the CRA review, dated 5/10/2020, and this is unaudited reconciliation information. Let me just start with that. From the history of the CRA, there were some funds that were actually borrowed from the water and sewer accounts that was being utilized as seed dollars to get the CRA going from its inception. And it was determined that there was approximately 344 or close to $345,000 that were utilized for that particular activity. As we look into the ad valorem taxes, which is actually the TIF dollars that were slated to come to the CRA, it was determined that approximately 827,000, almost 828,000 in ad valorem TIF dollars were to come to the CRA, and 389,000 were to come from Miami-Dade County. When you add all of that up, with the TIF dollars, you show a receivership of approximately $1,217,129. Adding that to the dollars from water and sewer gave you a total of 1.562,101. Now, over the past 6 years, there have been expenses relating to the operation of the CRA. And you can see those particular expenses as they are all lined out. One thing I would like to point out as relates to the executive salaries of $290,390 for approximately the first 3 years of the CRA operation, you did have an executive director. Their particular portion of the salary is to be reflected within that 290,000. And then the remaining balance, which averages on approximately 25 to 27,000 a year, was due to the fact that the CRA operations were transferred and merged with the city's planning and community development department. As a part of that merger, 10% of the CRA's funds went towards the salaries, or should I say 10% of the executive salaries and the regular salaries for the Planning and Community Development Department was derived from the CRA for their share of covering the costs or covering the operations of the CRA. And that 10% was also likely split between the FICA retirement contributions and life insurance, life and health insurance over that 3-year duration. Now, in addition to that, we had other professional services and other contracted services that dealt with legal retention, some publications and accounting that is also a part of the auditing fees. And there were some opportunities for travel. There was a conference that some of the members of the staff were able to attend as a part of their requirements in being members of the CRA staff. So as you look down this particular listing here, you will see that there's a variety of different charges and fees that were charged to the CRA. And as I will remind you, this was over a 6-year period. So this is an accumulation over that period of time. We also have charges as it relates to IT, because part of the cost is being allocated and shared between the CRA and the Planning and Community Development Department. And insurance risks, all departments within the city shared a certain level of the expense as it relates to insurance risk. So when you add all of those costs together, you end up with a total of approximately $817,068. Now, when you subtract that particular cost from the 1.5, you ended up with a excess cost of approximately $745,133. There is some modifications as it relates to that particular amount, because you may remember that within the account itself that is set aside for the CRA, there's approximately $861,000 that is reflected in that account. Now, there are funds that are basically due back to the CRA, and there are funds that are due back to the city itself. If I go back up to the top, the water and sewer allocation of $345,000, that is going to be considered at some point in time a revenue that needs to be returned back to the city as it relates to an expense. At the same time, there is a certain amount of funds that is to be paid back to the city, will pay back to the CRA as it relates to TIF dollars that were supposed to be generated. Once you take those two factors and work them out together, there will be, for the end of the last fiscal year, which was 2019, there's a balance due of approximately $116,418 that is due from the city of Opa-locka to the CRA. This year, there will be an additional allocation, which comes out to approximately another $105,000 that was going to be due to the CRA from the city of Opa-locka. So that's just giving you a nice, concise, and there's a memo attached to kind of explain that whole particular process. These are the dollars that need to be worked out as far as the reconciliation process, so that we can basically make a determination as to making both entities whole as it relates to those dollars and expenditures relating to the reconciliation. If you have any questions as it relates to the reconciliation process, I will try to address them to the best of my ability at this time.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
just for the record, I want to state that Board Member Davis joined us at 5:20.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome. Welcome, Board Member Davis. Thank you. I called you director. What you said your title was?
CRA managers.
Okay, CRA manager, Mr. Manager. Thank you very much. Board members, I was hoping that Mrs. Lazier, I thought she would be here today to answer any questions that the board members have concerning this report, because it's a lot to digest. But anyway, questions from my board? Were you able to follow along as Mr. Gay?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
to Mr. Gay, just in a short sense, what is the balance in the CRA account, to your knowledge, that's actually totally CRA money now?
Through the chair, the balance that is in the account as we speak right now is reflected within the statements. It should be $861,000 that's actually in the account right now. But we do have to take in consideration that part of that allocation is going to be part of the reimbursement going back and forth between the city and the CRA.
Okay, so that's the basic unknown.
Correct.
Okay, and minus whatever that number is would be also minus money we set aside for sod, money we set aside for assisting City Hall, et cetera.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so even though we're showing 861 based on what the board has already passed to do, plus whatever that reconciliation is really the real amount.
Well, also taking consideration through the chair, also taking consideration that even though the CRA may owe the city some expenditures, the city also owes the CRA expenditures. And at the end of the day, there will be legislation put in place to show the transfers from both entities going to one another. There will be a legislation for the transfer of funds from the CRA to the city of Opa-locka, and there will be also a transfer from the city of Opa-locka to the CRA. The CRA at the end of the day is going to be more so in the positive as it relates to that transfer, to the tune of approximately $221,000. So the account is as it is right now, but there will be some adjustments made over the next couple of months to basically make the necessary transfers necessary.
Okay, I understand there's some still back and forth with them owing, we owing, and we're in the end of the day, we will have a net gain more than it is. I'm just looking at what we've already expended as a board without even thinking of that. I'm just trying to get a sense of what that number was. Okay, so we need to figure it out. You said that's going to occur within the next couple of months.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, well, I'll just hold on. Thank you,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Through the chair.
Just to
Chair.
let you know, Miss Lazier has joined the conference.
Apologize.
Ms. Russell is on mute, and I would like to ask a question to Mr. Gay.
Oh, okay, there you go.
All right, thank you.
Before you ask your question, Board Member Bass, we want to make a note that Mrs. Lazier is on the line. Also, I think Mr. Robert had wanted to make a comment, but we're going to wait until after Board Member Bass asks her question of Mr. Gay. Go ahead, Board Member Bass.
Thank you so much. If I'm correct, according to the numbers we just got, the city owes the CRA approximately $221,000, a few dollars over. I don't know if that's correct. And Mr. Gates stated that more than likely we will be having a balance of 221 approximately from the city to the CRA. Did I get that right before I go on, Mr. Gay?
Before you, I think Board Member Bass, I think we need to let Mrs. Lazier, she probably, or Mr. Robert from the Finance Department, because
Okay.
those numbers seemingly does not coincide with what is before us. And also I met with Finance Department and Mr. Gay on yesterday, and we went through the budget. So Mrs. Lazier or Mr. Robert One, can you all kind of bring us up to speed, help us understand at the end of the day? I know we have a lot of numbers here, a lot of papers going forward with the reconciliation, but give us as much as you can, because I know some of it you told me is a forecast. So if you could kind of explain to us where the CRA is and in regards to the CRA and the city and the city and the CRA. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay. Do you want to go, Bob, or do you want me to speak?
Let me give it a shot and then back me up to the extent I jump the rails on this thing. I would urge everybody not to look at the month-to-month transactions. You'll go crazy doing it. Let me try to put it in perspective. As I said a couple moments ago, the position of the CRA as of September 30th, 2019, subject to whatever changes the FY19 audit might make, but put that aside for the moment. At the moment, as of the end of September 2019, the CRA had $745,033, which was available to it for future activities. For the year that we're in, we are well, in fact, we know the revenue will be 734,000 and change. The expenditures will be 719,000 and change. The difference will be $15,000. Again, this is a forecast on everything that we understand the CR is going to spend money on. And the difference of 15,000 then would get added to the 745,000 that you closed the end of last year. That would say at the end of this year, if the forecast is good, and we have no reason to think it's particularly wrong, you're going to have a balance available to you of $760,000 and change. That would be your opening position going into next year. Does that clarify anything, hopefully?
So that's minus the projects, the monies that we have allocated for projects.
What it assumes
in the budget, in the budget that you all presented to us, the projects are included in that budget. So that's less those things that we've already voted on as projects.
I was talking to FY20. I'm assuming when you talk about projects, you're also talking about FY current year. And as I said, forecast based on all your projects is that you will spend $719,000 versus a income of $734,000. So that would be a $15,000 surplus. The forecast picks up everything that we understand that you have as projects for the current year.
Mr. Robert, can you tell me or tell us, the board, what page of these documents that you gave us that we can look at and see those numbers?
I'm not aware of exactly what page. I know what pages we looked at yesterday, but I don't have them in front of me. What I'm referring to was what was in the budget book as the probably the third and fourth page within the CRA section. It's a page that starts with the CRA summary. Shows FY19, FY20, 3 columns, and the 2 columns for FY21.
If I could just interject here, what Bob is just in essence referring to is actually referring to the CRA budget for the upcoming year, 2021.
That's what I thought.
But if I may, it also has the FY20 forecast in, which is what we're talking to right now. So that page has FY19 as a page of history. It has FY20 as a forecast. And then as the CR manager said, it also includes FY21. But the data that, I'm sorry, go on, please.
Can we make, I'm gonna let Jerry, I'm gonna let you go, Mrs. Lazier, but can we please have, take it in some type of order as we did yesterday in the meeting so that everyone understands where we are. And when you're making reference to something, can you please make reference to the page so that the board members can go to the page on which you're referring to, and they can follow along with you as you go through that. Because we have a lot of pages in front of us with a lot of numbers, and we understand that what you're talking about now, you were referring to the FY20 budget. And then we also have on here, FY21 would be a forecast because we're already into 20 that ends September 30th of this year. So that, I don't know why that would be a forecast. That would be the actual budget that you're working on now. The 21 budget would be a forecast. So
Madam Chair.
Jerry, can you, yes, sir, Board Member Kelly, Vice Chair.
Before they start getting it all, could they just answer the question Commissioner Bass was raising, or they get too far down the road? Because I'm totally confused, but I was.
Yes, it's totally confusing.
Question that she was raising before we start talking, did they answer her question?
I don't think her question, she could answer that better than me, but I don't think her question was answered because she's trying to find a bottom number as to where we are. We don't need a forecast. We know what we had in the bank because we saw the bank statement at the end of last year. But Board Member Bass.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just waiting patiently. I'm just like,
Did you
okay,
get your question answered?
No, and thank you for that, Board Member Kelly, because I'm sitting here and I'm getting confused as all outdoors. I just asked a simple question and I just didn't get what I was asking for.
I'm gonna go ahead, finish, Board Member Bass.
Okay, I basically just wanted to know, according to the numbers we saw, and I know they're not going to be period numbers, meaning that's it. I know that. Ballpoint talking. What I'm thinking, what I gathered was that what the city owes the CRA is approximately $221,000.
Okay. Let me.
Robert is shaking his head. I guess I'm getting it all wrong.
No.
Just
on
Jerry, hold a minute, Mrs. Lazier, hold a minute. Let's get some clarification before we move forward. Commissioner Bass wants to know dollar. We're in July 22nd of 2020. So we're already in 20 budget. So for 2020, we should have numbers. We shouldn't have a forecast. For 2021, we could have a forecast. Now, I could follow along with budgets pretty good. So can you tell, Mrs. Lazier, can you tell Commissioner Bass what we have available to us as a board? Let's not talk about budget. Let's talk about what we have as a CRA board.
Chairperson Russell, if I may, just to make it real simple, I just really want to know what is the approximate dollars that the CRA owes the city, and what are the approximate dollars that the CRA, that the city owes the CRA, vice versa. That's all I want to know.
Okay. I'm gonna answer that for you. So
Mhm.
remember, we just finished the audit for fiscal year 18, right?
Right. Mhm.
So the numbers were not updated in the system. But as of May, we were able to get the updated numbers as of 9/30/2018. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is that we had to go back 2013 all the way to 2018 to figure out what was due. And if you look at the attachments, because I want to stick to what you guys have in your packet,
Mhm.
document shows, and if you look at it, it says fiscal year 2012 to fiscal year 18, because remember, that was the audit that we had just completed. And we basically figured out all of the revenue that was supposed to go to the CRA and all of the expenses. And we realized the CRA was supposed to have 343,000 as of 9/30/2018. However, when we looked at the bank, there was only 100,000 in the bank account, which is why we also gave you guys a copy of the bank statement, right?
Mhm.
We realized the CRA should have had 343,000, only about 100,000 was in the bank. At that point in time, the city owed the CRA 242,000. I provided that because that was the last audit that we did. Okay, so that's 9/30/2018. Keep in mind, we haven't done the 18 audit, the 19 audit, and now we're rolling into 20. And so there's a lot of things that still are getting caught up to date. So the next thing that we provided to you, after we showed the audit, we then took go to the fourth page. We then said, okay, we gave them a reconciliation up until 9/30/2018. And
What's the name of give the title of the page in which you're talking?
so now I'm moving on because I had provided you guys with what we did up until 18. And then I gave you guys a bank statement. And then I provided the audit to show you what was in the bank statement. Go to the fourth page that says financial reconciliation up until March 2020. Now we're trying to bring it from 9/30/2018 to March 2020. And we did another reconciliation. And we said, okay, well, what was due to the city? You guys should have brought in total of 2.2 million in revenues. And then based on the expenses, it looks like we owe the city an additional 566,000 based on this report. And if you see here,
Mrs. Lazier, you owe the
Yes.
city or the city owes the CRA?
the city owes the CRA. So if you
Okay,
it says cash in the bank is 861,000, right? And we're showing that we owe the city funds due to CRA from the general fund. We owe the city 566,000. We need to transfer that to the CRA. That was as of March 2020. So that's the
Mrs. Lazier, excuse me,
Yes.
you keep saying the city, but you mean the city is supposed to be transferring it to the CRA. But
Correct.
you keep
The
saying
city-
the city.
well, that's what the city owes the CRA. I'm sorry.
Okay,
The city, I'll say the city owes the CRA. The city
okay.
owes the CRA $566,120 as of March 20. Okay, that was an estimate. Obviously, we're now in July, so we need to bring that number forward, correct? Looking at what additional expenses. So as of today, I would like to say, as of March 2020, the city owes the CRA an additional 566 in addition, okay? In addition, if you go to the next page, the second page after that, you'll see the reconciliation that we did that showed the TIF money so that you guys can see what we actually calculated. But then you see in the bank account, it's 861,000 in the bank. But if you go back to the report that I showed you, yes, you have 861 in the bank because we had transferred money to you guys, but we still owe you an additional 566,000. The city owes the CRA an additional 566, which would bring that number to 1.4 million.
Oh, dear God, don't go there.
Based on our analysis, because we looked at fiscal year 20 numbers, Bob, we would owe the CRA 566,000. Keep in mind, That is as of March 2020. That does not take into the consideration the additional expenses from April to September. That report is as of March 2020. And in the meeting we had last week, we shared we need to bring that forward, and that's what we are working on. So as of March 20, let me finish, because I let you speak. As of March 2020, based on our reconciliation, we owed the CRA some additional monies. Now, if additional monies have been appropriated for other things, if there's expenses that have come after March, obviously there are, because there's payroll and there's other things that are happening, that number may reduce, right? So as of March, we owe the city an additional, the city owes the CRA an additional $566,000. However, keep in mind from April until September, the CRA is going to incur additional cost. And so if the CRA incurs additional costs, the city is going to reduce that number by those costs, if that makes sense, right? Because remember, the city is advancing the cost for most of the CRA's expenses. So that may reduce what we owe you guys.
Madam Chair, may I make a point, please? It's Bob Anderson.
Before you make that point, Board Member Bass.
Thank you so much, Chair. To Ms. Lazier, I got that. I understood that totally. Thank you so much. Now, if you can, and again, I know it's not precise numbers, what are the numbers that the CRA is owing the city?
Well, that's the piece that we are working on. So
Okay.
that's
All right.
we were able to get to March 2020. Keep in mind,
Okay.
we just finished the audit in May, and we 19, we're starting to do 20. So we haven't gotten there yet. But we
Okay.
April until we need the numbers for April, May, June, July to see what that cost is.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
So
Chair.
that's what I would like to share.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I
Okay,
may.
I saw, excuse me, Mr. Robert, can we not confuse us more? So if you have something to add to Mrs. Lazier that's going to add, we don't want to muddy the waters right here. Can we just kind of stay on course and move forward? So, because I want all of us to be on the same page and understanding what we have going on. I think I see Vice Mayor Davis, you wanted to ask a question?
Well, not really a question, but just wanted to confirm, Ms. Lazier, I know that she said we're still kind of going through the reconciliation process between what is owed between the CRA and the city. So I guess, are we under the impression that the full reconciliation will happen at the end of this fiscal year? Like, we're waiting on the rest of the expenses to kind of go through, and then we'll have those final numbers at that moment. But currently it's a work in progress. Right.
Right. So we did it up until March, and now we have various staff working on different things to reconcile the account. So we plan to have that to you guys at least by the end of the year, if not before. So we're in July now. We're working through it now. We've posted a lot of the transactions, but I really didn't want to provide additional information on stuff that we have not reconciled just yet, right? So we feel comfortable with the estimate that we provided for March, and we will give updated numbers once we have the information reviewed and reconciled.
Okay, so I mean, I'll just review whatever changes, and as the full reconciliation happen, we could discuss it at that moment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Robert.
Yes, ma'am. First off, one of the things that's going to happen to the CRA is they're going to pay back the water sewer fund $345,000 out of the total we were talking about. You've received all your receipts for the year. You are spending money. You will spend money because you've put programs in place. At the end of the year, if you spend all the money on the programs you put in place, the $861,000 that you have in your bank account is going to be reduced to $760,000 which means the CRA is going to owe other funds approximately $101,000. So at the moment, you understand where things are in March, but there's a lot of expenditures coming up. First and foremost, the $345,000. By the time the dust settles, based on the programs you've approved, you're going to have available to you at the end of the year $760,000.
Yes. Yes, I understood that, Mr. Robert. I don't know whether, I see, Vice Chair Kelly.
Yes, so, thank you, Madam Chair. So you're saying based on what the board has approved, which is over 700 and some odd thousand, and if you add whatever, you'll have 7 at the end. We've got that many expenditures we've approved already that you see in the pipeline. Is that what you're saying?
Through the board, Commissioner, what I'm saying is that based on the programs you have either approved or forecast you're going to approve in the next 2 months, you will spend a total of $719,000.
Okay, I keep hearing that word forecast, so maybe I'm lost. I know I missed the workshop last week, so maybe I'm lost. We've only, well, I'm trying to figure what we have approved that you're forecasting. We would have spent that much at the end of this this year. We only approved a facade and some dollars for Historic City Hall. And I know we paid a portion of salaries. What else? I'm trying to figure out what is that other big item that would make that number 700 and some thousand.
Through the chair, the largest number is, you haven't approved it yet, but you do owe the money is $345,000 that's going to come out of the CRA and go to the water sewer fund, where it came from in 2013, 2014. That's a big chunk of your 700,000 right there.
Okay. So you're projecting what we're going to pay back into the city.
Back into the water sewer fund, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Lazier, you're on mute. Go ahead.
Yes, so that's why what Bob is saying is correct. There are additional costs that you guys have incurred since March 20th that I'm not taking into effect yet, because
You stopped at March the 20th.
Right, and then keep in mind, I don't take into consideration things that you guys haven't approved. So it's a lot of stuff that you guys may have approved after the fact or haven't approved yet, like the $347,000 that's supposed to be repaid to the water and sewer. From an accounting perspective, it hasn't even been authorized by the CRA board yet. So there's nothing due on our end, and we won't reduce your money until you guys actually formally approve that. So just keep in mind, there is a timing difference, and that's what the issue is. Bob is trying to project what the number is going to be at the end based on everything that you guys say you're going to do, while I'm still at March 2020, right? That makes sense. And if you do all those things you said that you were going to do based on what Bob is saying he has as target in terms of the data and support, your number is going to dwindle down, right? And if you don't approve those things, the number may be higher.
Because we also are anticipating receiving monies from, again, this year from the city's portion that they owe to the CRA as well, that was not taken into account in your forecast. Go ahead, Board Member Paget.
Thank you, Chairwoman Russell. Question to the chair, to Mr. Gay. When are we going to approve that funding or payback to the water and sewer? Is that coming up on the agenda soon, or is that a motion? What do we need to do to make that happen so that we can properly account for our funds?
Through the chair, Board Member Paget, that's going to be an action item that will be brought before you. As far as the timing of when that's going to occur, we're still working out some of the logistics through finance and budget to make sure that, one, the funds are available and in place, and it doesn't interfere with any other transactions that may be pending. So that there may be an opportunity where that payback will happen in one lump sum, or it may be something that will have to be paid back over a period of time. But we need to have that process fully analyzed So I can't really give you a specific date and time, but as we work through all of the additional numbers that we need to work through, we're going to be able to make that determination. And hopefully by the beginning of the next fiscal year, we'll be able to make that determination and move forward.
Thank you. Madam Chair, are we on a resolution or is this just a report?
They're going through the financial report, board member Paget, because it
Okay.
was a lot of documents that were attached.
Thank you, Madam.
So that's what we were going through. Also, when board member Vice Chair Kelly asked about things that take into account that have been spent or a part of that budget that Mr. Robert was referring to, there are items that the CRA board pays for, you know, like we contribute to the insurance that comes out of the budget. We contribute to being at Town Center 1, that comes out of our budget. 10%, you know about the 10% of the salaries of the staff. Also, we pay a portion of IT. So there are a lot of expenses that are occurring behind the scene that the CRA pays to the city. And that's a part of that budget that Mr. Gay was referring to as well. And I met with finance on yesterday, and we went through a lot of these documents, and I still have some questions. I'm waiting until we get more up to date with the data, with the monthly reports. And I informed them that I would like to meet with them at least through the rest of my term on a quarterly basis or either bi-monthly basis, so that although we're behind in our reporting in the system, at least I'll have a better knowledge, or we'll have a better knowledge of what we actually have before we start just saying we can do this project, that project. We'll have a basic idea of what we have, rather than just looking at papers and saying, this is a forecast, this might not happen to next year, you know, so that we want to move forward. I know the Historical City Hall is a project that we're looking forward to working with the city on. So we need to know what dollars are going to be available, because that project have went from one number to a totally different number now. So we need to have an idea as to what monies we have to work with now, that's available to us now, so we can make a good determination as to what we want to do. So thank you, Mrs. Lazier. Mr. Robert, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Lazier.
What I was gonna say is, I'm gonna commit to, by the time you guys have your next meeting, I'll see if we can at least bring it forward to June 30th. I mean, we did get the most recent bank statements, and the CRS portion is relatively small. We'll see if we can do a reconciliation to bring it forward to at least June 30th, so that you can get a better picture.
Okay, that would be great. That would be great. Thank you so much. And I also asked the manager that if the CRA board is contributing to the Town Center 1, can he please have an area set aside for the CRA, so that, you know, office or something, it could be a small area, that when we have to have meetings, that we'll have a designated place that we could do that. So they're working on with us on that as well. Mr. Gay, you can continue on the next item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item is actually going to be dealing with our upcoming budget for 2021. Mr. Anderson has basically put together a series of what our expected expenditures, what our expected revenues would be for the next fiscal year. And as a part of his particular forecast, What you will probably notice is that a lot of the expenditures that we've discussed will most likely be coming out of the next fiscal year. Is that in terms of that's when it's most likely to occur. So I'm going to have Mr. Anderson take over, and he's going to basically explain to you what are we looking at in terms of the future budget for the CRA.
Okay, this is an unexpected pleasure. Give me a moment. I'm going to pull something up on the screen. If anybody has any questions in the meantime, please use the time better while I look for what I need to show you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir, Board Member Paget.
Just if there is any issues with meeting in town center until we get that designated space, feel free to connect with the city clerks and use our commission conference room if it's available.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's
I'll
Bob
speak
Anderson. It's Bob Anderson. I'm going to take over the screen very quickly, if I may, just to share with you what we're talking about here. Okay. I'm almost there. Bear with me.
What page is this on?
Okay. This is not on any page. I wasn't aware that I was going to do this, so let me at least show you what I have available. Okay. This is what we're talking about for the budget next year. I worked with the CRA manager on it. This is where he thought the monies ought to be spent subject to your approval. You can see at the top, you're talking about a little over $1 million for income next year. City kicking in 700,000, the county kicking in 334,000. Where we see the expenditures at this time, subject to your approval, is as enumerated on this page. Compensation, 29,000, 150,000 for the CRA plan update, and I believe that's in addition to monies that are allocated to this that project for this year. There has been discussion over the last couple of days about what could be done to make the park and recreation system a point of pride for the community, something that they find attractive and want to go to. There was a meeting amongst various directors, and one of the key things that we decided seemed to be very important was a master plan. At the moment, we think it's in the range of $150,000. CR managers said that approximately half of the parks and the recreational or the community centers are within the CRA, and he thought it would be appropriate to recommend an expenditure of $75,000 against this park master plan if this is something that the commission wants to go forward in terms of an overall master plan for the city. There's another 120,000 in here for the facade program for FY21. There is 200,000 in the FY20 forecast. That may not materialize. If you don't spend 200,000 this year, the number I said is going to be understated by the amount you don't spend. That's why this year is a forecast, because we think we know where it's going, but we don't have great certainty. The next item that the CRA manager wanted to get into the proposed budget was a streetscape program, $100,000. The historic city hall grant, $175,000. I'm sorry. Somebody have a question, please? Okay. The last few items on it are park amenities. And the thought was there that there are two parks within the CRA area. And the thought was that possibly the CRA would provide shade structures, if you will, for the top play areas. The other services and fees are primarily legal fees as well as county and state fees. The trust fund addition is $295,764. That really says that is money that is not at the moment allocated for any other purpose. I had mentioned a few moments ago that if everything in the FY20 forecast comes true, and again, it may not, you are going to have $760,000 going into FY21. If the 295 is not spent because it's not designated for any program at the moment, it would take that 760 and increase it by another 300,000. And then the last line refers to the charges that go back for various services provided by the city that the chairwoman mentioned a moment ago. So this is where the proposed, a key word is proposed budget subject to your approval. This is how it's structured at the moment. There are no questions. I'm going to give the screen back.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Robert. Board members, do you have any questions concerning the proposed budget for 21?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
where do these proposals come from? I mean, now this is something y'all discussed in the workshop last week. If you could put
No.
it up on the screen, if you have a copy of it. I'm trying to go off my memory of what he just put that, what he had up.
We can't hear you that well, Commissioner.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
No, can you put that on the screen, because we don't have that, so I don't want to just go off my memory. Where did these numbers and what have you? I understood the facade. I know you talked about the downtown. Where do those other ones come from?
I'll let Mr. Gay answer that. That was the first time that I've seen that. I think this is something that the CRA manager put together. Go ahead, Mr. Gay.
Yes, through the chair. Over the past few months, there have been several items that have been discussed in several different arenas relating to the moving forward with specific projects as they were identified within the CRA plan and how they could be applicable toward projects that the city is looking toward. The parks has been a discussion for quite some time, and we just actually had a park summit pre-planning meeting as of yesterday. And as a part of that discussion, one of the things that came out of that discussion is what could potentially be done in a short timeline and what could be done looking much further down the road. Now, as far as looking at a parks master plan, the parks master plan is something that has to be developed citywide. It's not something that will just occur within a short period of time, and it has to evolve over a period of time. So we kind of see that as a long range project or a long range plan to be established. As it is within the CRA, part of the parks are within the CRA areas, and it has been identified within the CRA redevelopment plan to be involved with the parks redevelopment and amenities. So that was suggested that the CRA can participate in assisting in the development of that overall master plan. Now, there are some short-term projects and amenities that we've heard over a series of times that doesn't necessarily have to do with parks, but it can be considered an improvement for the parks. We've had discussions at different park areas, and one thing that has been mentioned numerous times is that the tot lots do not have any type of covering to basically make the area a little bit more amenable for small children to play over a period of time, and basically make it a much more enjoyable experience. My staff has taken the liberties to look at opportunities to see if it's possible that because of where these tot lots are located within the CRA and within those particular parks, maybe the CRA could consider through your recommendation and approval, having these amenity improvements to take place within these particular parks. The parks that have been pretty much identified within the CRA area, because there are 9 parks within the Opa-locka park system. Out of that 9, 4 of them are actually within the CRA area. That is Shabundi, the Butterfly Park, Kaboom Park in Magnolia North, and Ingram. Those are the 4 parks that fall within the CRA area. So those are the parks that the CRA can play a role in assisting with either short-term projects to bring amenities to the parks or a long-range project to overall and have an overall development plan to enhance the park over a long-term period of time. The other pieces that relate to the listing down are basically incidental projects that we may not necessarily come to fruition. One of them being the streetscape. The thought behind the streetscape projects was that as the city was going forward with improving some of the infrastructure and improving some of the roadways, some of those roadways actually fall within the CRA. And as a participation from the CRA and as recommended within the CRA, there may be an opportunity to add some greenscape or some type of streetscaping to those particular roadways. Some of them are in the industrial area. One project area that we think will have a vast improvement to the city overall is if you would have the streetscape project that will be included with the infrastructural improvements that are needed on Alibaba Avenue. That is probably the main road that actually cuts through the entire city, going from the 17th Avenue end all the way over to the connector. Streetscaping is an opportunity to green up and basically make the environment within those particular streets much more tolerable and much more improved. And as it stands right now, there's very little landscaping, especially along Alibaba Avenue. So that was basically the CRA making a contribution toward the city's infrastructural improvements to basically make some beautification improvements for those particular areas. Those are pretty much some things that we anticipate. We don't anticipate that it will occur all within 1 year. It may be something that will be broken up over a 3 to 5 year period.
Okay, Madam Chair, you know, I'm going to try to stay as calm as I can. I'm amazed that all of a sudden this parking just, and I've been talking about parks for over a year, particularly Ingram Park, and I met with the manager, trying to identify funding, and now I hear you all had a meeting or something, and now you found these dollars to do something with parks. I'll deal with that with the manager. From my perspective on this, let me just ask a question. There are no projected proposals or recommendations of any kind of infrastructure, road, street improvements. You got these dollars y'all seem to be wanting to spend that could have been paid or resurfaced with any CRA dollars within the CRA.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, you were breaking up on.
Can you hear me, or I need to come in and come out?
No, can you hear Mr. Gay?
I can hear him, yes.
The question was, are there any roadways within the CRA that could be funded to be used for street improvements, resurfacing and the like that doesn't require drainage? I don't know if you heard me earlier. I'm amazed at the emphasis on parks and finding money for parks when we've been talking about that for 6 or 7 months. And here the last 2 days, it seems like we found money for master plans and everything else, but I'll deal with the manager on that. But my question to you is, are there any identified roadways within the CRA that dollars could be spent to deal with some of the bad roads that don't require as much drainage? Since the city's already doing some paving and resurfacing, are there any roads in the CRA district that could have benefited from some projects?
There are roadways that could benefit from supplemental dollars coming from the CRA. The CRA is not in a position to make full roadway improvements, but they can add, they can bring dollars to basically enhance and beautify the roadways. And it has to be roadways that are within the CRA district. So have they specifically been identified as of yet? No, they have not. But that is something that we would like to consider to look at doing as we go further down the road. And understand this, these are things that are already outlined within the redevelopment plan. These projects that we're speaking about are not something that we just kind of pulled out of the thin blue sky. These are things that they were basically bullet points and particulars of things that can be done within the CRA, potential proposed projects. Landscaping and streetscaping was definitely one to look at enhancing whatever particular improvements that the city was looking at from an infrastructural standpoint. So this is basically supplemental funds to assist in basically in removing of the slum and blight that may be occurring within specific areas.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Board Member Paget.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
First of all, Board Member Kelly, Vice Chair, did you get your question answered?
No, I didn't, but I'll move on. I see what I see what's happening. No problem. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I looked at those numbers when I first saw them and were a bit surprised, but I also see the value in it. I think staff has been hearing. There's some feedback. Somebody may have to mute. Okay, there we go. I think staff has done actually a really good job in really hearing what has been going on and our thoughts as board members of the CRA, and also what's going on in the city to propose something for us to move on. And I think that is it's on point. Now, I'm glad to see that level of movement. I know that on the city side, we have a upcoming park summit where we're going to be talking about different things. And we also talked about allocating funds in our budget on the city side to ensure that during this coronavirus, during this downtime, we can make improvements to the parks. I'm glad to see that there's been some funding allocated to assist with that park plan and also to the upgrades of our parks. Also looking at the streetscape, whatever that is. If it is an allocation to beautify Alibaba, which will align with the stormwater improvements, I think that's very significant because as we continue to develop this city, one of the fundamental things that I've heard many of us say on the CRA is that we want to beautify our city. Like, we want to make this stuff look good. So we allocated funds for a facade program to help business owners and to educate. I'm hearing feedback. I think that's from Bob. Somebody unmute their mic. All right. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, to see that we are, as a CRA, going to contribute to the beautification of one of our major arteries. Alibaba is probably the street for the city of Opa-locka. I know 27th, 135th, and a few others, those are state and county owned. But Alibaba is like the main street for the city of Opa-locka. So it's long overdue for a level of beautification in that area and the groundwork. So much respect for the forward thinking. I anticipate looking forward to the actual logistics of that program and what that would look like. But for us to actually see it as an option, I appreciate that. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair? Can't hear you, Madam Chair. You're still muted.
Go ahead, Board Member Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was a couple projects that was pointed out by the mayor, and I know a lot of those projects were associated with the comprehensive plan that we did a while back. I know it's recommended that every 5 years, I guess, municipalities in Florida are required to update their comprehensive plan. And the comp plan is pretty much a more broader vision of ultimately where a city is to go for the next 5 to 7 years, or 10 to 20 years strategically speaking, but it's updated for 7 years. I know that framework was kind of laid, I guess, a while back, and a couple of things came out of that, such as the downtown development plan, and now here we are potentially putting forth a parks plan in the next fiscal year. Is the overarching comprehensive plan still guiding a lot of the projects that we're doing? Or is it recommended to have that that plan updated? Since we probably are, at about 5 to 7 years from the last time it was completed. Question to the director, Mr. Gay, through the chair.
To the chair, Board Member Davis, yes, you are speaking in reference to the comprehensive master plan for the city of Opa-locka, which was completed in 2015. As a separate matter to be done under the city, we will be moving forward and doing what is called an evaluation and appraisal report for that comprehensive master plan. That will basically, it's a process to determine how the plan has performed over a period of time. And it's usually every 7 years that you would do this evaluation. And then based on the evaluation, it determines whether you need to make upgrades or amendments to your comprehensive master plan. That's something that we're doing with our other hat on, our planning and community development hat. And if the funding is in place as we would like for it to be when our budget is approved, that is something that we will be forecast to move forward with in the next fiscal year. But that will be under planning and community development. But just to kind of answer your question, the comprehensive plan is always the main guiding tool for any type of development within the city of Opa-locka, whether it be under the CRA or in the other areas that are outside of the CRA. So that is the main guiding tool, and the land development regulation or the zoning code is the guiding tool that basically is mandated by the comprehensive plan to determine how the city is going to evolve and develop over a period of time.
Thank you. Another reason why I bring that up too is because I see that we're, I guess now moving in the direction. We had a presentation last week with an entity that I guess was pursuing some sort of public-private partnership with the city. And I know in that comp plan, you also have there's also land use discussions and that sort of thing as well. I would hope as we go forward to kind of craft what we, would want a public-private partnership to look like, that input is included, from the comp plan and land use strategy as far as, like what type of development we would like to see here in our city. In my opinion, I'm not really a big fan of people kind of driving and dictating that process. If we're going to be the entity that's ultimately, offering things up and subsidizing on the cost of development for a business to come here to our city, I would hope that we would, at least, drive that process and at least, have our desires, at the forefront of the decision making of that. So just my thoughts on the comp plan and kind of how we're headed, with the park plan and other documents. Thank you.
Any other questions before I give Mr. Gay my thoughts? Commissioner, Board Member Burke or Board Member Bass?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, haven't heard from Board Member Burke. My concern, Mr. Gay, is that these projects that you're putting forth the next year for the year of 20. Oh, there's Board Member Burke. I haven't heard from you today. I was wondering, did you have any questions or concerns for Mr. Gay concerning this item?
No, ma'am. I'm listening, taking it all in.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. Gay, I wanted to know, I see that we have the facade program on for next 2021 as well. Is this an additional facade program that we're looking at, or is this is this gonna be carryover money, or are we looking at doing the facade program again next year?
Madam Chair, as you and many other members of the board, the facade improvement program, we're just really getting it off the ground with the budgeted amount that we're going to be utilizing for this year. We are anticipating that because of the timeline that is occurring, is definitely going to roll over into the next fiscal year. But there may also, depending on the responses that we are anticipating as relates to business owners and property owners potentially participating in this process, that there will be an additional ask for additional dollars to be utilized. With that being said, we're banking on utilizing the $120,000 that's set aside right now. And if that there should be a time where we see where there's an additional need for facade improvements to be done, we will come back before you and basically ask that the project be continued and that another allocation be put in place.
Okay, I would like to see us move this facade program that we have, move it forward before we look at next year. I understand that you say it may roll over into next year, but I hope it's on the same dollars that we have already identified in this year's budget. And also with the other things that you have, the parks and the master plan. I know you said on here, I think I saw a CRA plan update as well as a park master plan. In our CRA plan, is there a section where we talk about improvement in the parks? Isn't there a section in there for that? For some type of park improvement or collaboration with parks?
That's actually within the present plan that we have right now. Yes, it is.
Yes. Okay. So that answers that question. So these things that you're talking about, they are part of the plan that we already are working with today, because Board Member Davis talked about the city's master plan, but I know the CRA also have a plan, and I'm hoping that the CRA's plan and whatever update we're going to do is going to be in conjunction with the city's master plan that they have, so that we don't have a plan, they have a plan, and then 2 years from now, you got to come back and do another plan. So I hope the two are coming together. Whatever the CRA is doing is falling under that master plan of the city. I see you.
Yes, as a part of Florida statute requirements, all plans have to be consistent with the city's overall comprehensive master plan, which includes the community redevelopment plan. So yes, it will be consistent.
Okay, so if the city's master plan haven't been updated in about 7 years or so, I'm concerned as to how we're gonna move forward with a park master plan if we haven't updated the city's plan to make sure that you're following the master plan, the parks plan, and the CRA plan is following the master plan of the city. That concerns me. Okay, you might not have an answer for that, but I'm gonna go to Board Member Paget. That's my concern, that we're looking at spending $150,000 on a master plan for the park. But if the city's plan is outdated, then the parks plan is gonna be jumping ahead of the city's master plan. That's my concern. Go ahead, Board Member Paget. You're mute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The budget that we were shown has that been approved by this board?
No, it has not. Through the chair, the budget has not been approved. This is basically a proposed budget that needs to be reviewed by you. And usually the approval time period is somewhere during the month of August and September. So, but because we're already working ahead to get some of the documentation in place, because we want to be pretty much well down the road as it relates to getting the approval processes in place, as it relates to things that have to be sent before the oversight board for approval and all those particulars. We wanted to at least give you a first brush process of looking at what the budget looks like. If there's some areas of concerns that you have questions about, that you feel where there needs to be adjustments made to that, this is the opportunity to make that adjustment. So when we have the final budget put before you in September to be approved, you would already have at least seen it and made whatever necessary adjustments to that particular budget.
All right, thank you. That's why I just wanted to make sure these were options for our discussion, so that we can figure out, because I am of the opinion of being a lot more conservative with the spending of the CRA, because it's such a small budget at the moment, and we're still in the building phases, so that we can actually do a major project at some point in time. So I know personally, I would like to see a lot of those proposed probably reallocated to that trust fund line, so that we can have that there. And then if, let's say, the Park Summit discussion brings something useful, fruitful, or we see that the facade program it actually is something good, then we can make an amendment and maybe reallocate some of those funds at that time. So once we're more clear, but I really want to make sure that we are building the CRA fund, so that we can have a major project. I see how contributing to Historic City Hall will be a big deal. I see how contributing to the revitalization of the parks will be a big deal. And I see how contributing to the streetscape will also be a big deal, because those are all things that our residents will immediately see, immediately touch, and people coming into the city will also be in touch. So I'm in favor of them, but I'm also want to make sure that we're prudent with the funds moving forward. So thank you, Madam Chair. That's all.
Okay, did I see anyone else? Anything they want to say on that issue? Okay, also, Mr. Gay, another concern. I don't see where we are saying anything about blight. I know the CRA, that's one of the main purpose of the CRA is to get rid of blight in the community. So in this outline proposed forecast for 21, I see this streetscape, but I also, when I ride in some communities, if they have a property that doesn't look good, they have like that screen around it. I think Miami Gardens had them during the Super Bowl time, and then it had on the sign that said, "Bring something beautiful to Miami Gardens," kind of like a advertisement. I would like for us also to look in that area of covering up some of that blighting, those dilapidated buildings or whatever, and then advertise on there, bring something beautiful to the city of Opa-locka. Even the project that I know the city voted on last a few meetings ago, the city voted on that project up there where the old Kentucky Fried Chicken was.
Yes.
You know, it needs to be, while they're doing what they're doing, it needs to be covered, Kevin. It needs to be covered, you know, so that it doesn't look so bad to the community.
Okay. I'm totally in agreement with you. That's something that we're definitely going to be looking at as far as possibly looking at having another part-time person to be a part of our staff, which kind of goes to our next item as it relates to the workload. One of the things that is needed within the CRA is someone who can dedicate their time toward business development and marketing. And basically looking at the CRA from an economic perspective. We would like to expand our staff to have at least a part-time economic planner to come on board to basically work with those particular type of projects and programs to look at marketing toward businesses coming to the CRA, marketing and screening off particular areas to basically make them a much more appealing. But at the end of the day, development is one of the things that's going to be necessary in order to improve the community and, in essence, remove that particular slum and blight, which is a part of the Florida statute, chapter 163. That's the primary objective in creating a CRA. Now, having a temporary screen would be great, but redevelopment and development is the primary thing that you would like to have occur within that for the CRA. So we will be looking into making sure that something like that can occur. Unfortunately, for that site that you mentioned, that site is a site that I personally consider should have been a part of the CRA, but it's not. So if we even had the opportunity to do that type of marketing and screening, we're basically in a position right now where we can only ask the developer to do that, in essence, on behalf of the city, and not something that can be proffered as a tool for redevelopment by the CRA at this time. So that pretty much covers that particular aspect. But I appreciate the question and the suggestion as well. Madam Chair, if you want me to continue, I can go ahead and run through the last few items, which is basically just status reports as it relates to the facade improvement.
Yes, you can go ahead. If none of the board members have any questions concerning the hiring of the employee.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I heard that, I need something in black and white more so than just what I'd like to do or what that person or individual want to do, how much we're talking about, typically what their job description would be. I'm assuming part-time, full-time, I don't know. I'm assuming it'll be an individual and not a consultant, but I need to see something more in black and white before I could comment on that particular staff recommendation. That's just for me, myself. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, anyone else? If not, you can continue, Mr. Gay.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Within your package, there were some updates that we wanted to provide you with. One more in specific is the facade improvement. We wanted to provide you with some of the documentation that will be proffered out to the community to invite people to be a part of the facade improvement program. As you know, this is a project that we're doing jointly with Opa-locka Community Development Corporation as a part of their combined initiative for business improvement and business assistance. The facade improvement will have an allocation of approximately $15,000 per business. Within that $15,000, approximately 30% of it will have to be in investment coming directly from the property owner or the business owner. So at the end of the day, you're looking at about $10,000 that will be a grant from the city of Opa-locka CRA. And then with the balance of the funds to be utilized for the facade improvement coming from the property owner or the business owner themselves. So we provided you with some of the documentation that will be utilized for marketing, for contracting, for agreements, and basically to have those people, or those individuals, those entrepreneurs to be a part of that particular process. So we wanted to basically give you an opportunity to look at it. There are a few errors within the documentation that was provided with you. So we're in the process of cleaning up those particular Scrivener's errors that have existed, where there may be some changes or some modifications needed to basically make sure all of the information is consistent across the board. So we're in the process of doing that now. And we're looking forward to getting this information out to the general public immediately. Any questions regarding facades?
Thank you, Mr. Gay. Are there any questions from board members concerning the facade program?
Ms. Russell?
Yes, Vice Mayor Davis.
Yes, to the director, is the online application now available? I know we given it a week deadline, but I haven't heard anything, any updates regarding that.
As it stands right now, and because we noticed these errors that needed to be corrected, it is not on the system as of yet. Once we cleaned up the language with some of the application information and the advertisement information and making sure that everything is in sync, we will be pushing that information out to the general public. So it will actually be going live on the Opa-locka CRA website, and then we will create a link from the city CRA link to be directly in line with the information that's provided.
Thank you for that, Mr. Gay.
Okay, so Mr. Gay, you're saying that by the end of the week or next week that application will be online? You didn't give a timeline?
I did not give a timeline, and I'm kind of hedging my bets here. I would like to do it as quickly as possible. My intention is that we will have that information out to the general public before August 1st. So we're basically looking at within the next 9 days.
Okay, last week you promised us. Last week, Mr. Gay, you promised us that we would have it. And I understand that people have been asking, so we don't want it to be on the CRA's on our plate that we're dragging our feet. Because if you have people that's interested, we need to move while they're interested. So, I mean, the application can't be that complicated. So, you promised us last week, Mr. Gay.
Yes, ma'am, you're absolutely correct.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Vice Chair.
No, just a question is, as a part of cleaning it up, I guess Mr. Gay said, the city, CRA city attorney is involved in the cleanup process to make sure that everything is correct as well.
We have had some, through the chair, we have had interactions with our city attorney to review over the documents. Matter of fact, we're working on some contractual things as it stands right now. We hope to have that information and those documentations resolved by the end of this week.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair. Any other time? Okay. You all have another meeting. So Mr. Gay, if you want to wrap it up real fast so we can go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
Yes. Well, the other two matters we've kind of brushed on already. The downtown master plan, we are in the process of finalizing the contract with the consulting services that are being provided that was selected. We just met with them this morning, going over the contract with them. And that information is being forwarded to our city attorneys as we speak for them to give their final review for it. We hope to have that information and have them on board with us within the next 8 days, so that by August 1st, they will be revved up and ready to go and working on the downtown master plan. Any questions relating to that?
I don't have any questions. Board
Okay.
members, we have about 15 minutes left, and I know you all want to get at least a hot cup of tea before you start your next meeting. At least a hot cup of tea. So if you have any questions, if not, we're gonna have you to wrap it up, Mr. Gates. Did
Okay.
some
Let
Vice
me
Mayor
wrap it up
Davis,
with,
did you have a question? Okay, all right. Go
let me
ahead.
just wrap it up with this real quick. Historic City Hall, we've talked over that on numerous occasions. The Public Works Department is looking at opportunities to do an assessment to Historic City Hall to determine what level of work is going to be required to complete that project. And as you can see within our budget, based on your resolution, we budgeted $175,000 to go towards the completion of that particular project. There may be some things coming forth over the next month or two to basically make a determination of how the CRA funds may be utilized. I know that you want to utilize them most likely for some type of brick and mortar as relates to the improvements of the facility, but it may need to look at opportunities where it can assist within the assessment and getting that particular aspect of the project moving forward as well, so that we can know what that final number would be. There are GOB bonds that the county has proffered, and Public Works has been in communication with them to determine what that level of funding will be. And once that determination is made, once the evaluation is done, we'll have a much better picture of how the CRA will be involved with that particular process. Last but certainly not least, I have provided you with my executive director's report, which is pretty much the summation of all of the things that the CRA is involved with. I hope you've had an opportunity to read through it. And if there aren't any other questions or concerns, that concludes our presentation at this time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gay. If there are not any other questions or concerns at this time, I would ask someone to adjourn the meeting.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
before you adjourn, I'd like to ask the director, and maybe I'll bring it back in a resolution to the attorney. We need to look at our logo for the CRA, since we're going to be expending some dollars and have some real major. I was looking at even the template we're using for the application. You know, the CDC has a nice, pretty, whatever. Our logo doesn't really stand out to say CRA, which is what this program initially is. So we could look at that going forward. But I'll speak to the attorney so we can bring it back in a forum to really discuss and the board can talk about. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Kelly. You have that, Mr. Gay?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, if there are not any other concerns, someone can move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you all. Very productive meeting today. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Evening.